Hello everyone, my name's Leo with SuperTech. Got a customer that just got to dropping off their PlayStation 4 Slim. Basically, they brought it in because it has no display when attempting to, of course, play the console. I have turned it on, which I'll go ahead and show as proof as well right now, that the console does turn on. It does show a white light of death, at least that's what we like to call it. Hold on. Earlier, I had to press a certain way, the power button, in order for it to turn on. So the console is turning on right now. I don't know if you can actually see that right now, but it does have a blue light. And we'll see that blue light turn to a white light here in a little bit. Basically, the console itself turns on to a white light of death, but there's no display. I did look at the HDMI port itself. The HDMI port does show some damage, which I believe that is actually the cause and the reason. There goes the white light of death right there. So the port itself does show some damage, which we'll get under the scope here in a little bit, and we'll see the exact damage the console actually has. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get on to the scope. Alright, so we've got the board completely out of the console now. We've done cleaning the console out. After further inspecting this board definitely shows signs of water damage, literally right on the edge over here. Also here on the back, you can definitely see that there is signs of water damage, liquid damage. Of course, the Wi-Fi cable along with the antenna. Well, the antenna along with I'm guessing this would be the, I don't remember which other cable it is. Both, not the ports themselves, but the actual cables that were plugged into that show signs of corrosion. So I'm gonna have to get those cleaned out as well. Let me go ahead and clean out this board real quick, as it does have a lot of dust on it, and I like to work in a clean environment. So let me go ahead and get this board cleaned up. So now that we do have the board completely cleaned out, let's go ahead and properly inspect this HDMI port underneath the scope from the inside as well, and see what we see. Alrighty, so underneath the microscope, this port looks the HDMI port looks perfect on the inside, of course. We are going to have to remove it though. Let me go ahead and show you again one more time exactly what's going on with this HDMI port. As you can see, this HDMI port here definitely shows that it is damaged. Pins themselves are actually broken and the inside is loose, even though on the back end, on the inside back here, it's actually in good condition. Alright, that being said, let's go ahead and prep this board and remove this HDMI port. Let me zoom out a little bit, and we need to put some low melt solder, but I do need to lift this up just a tad bit to put this low melt solder on here. There we go. That is perfect. Let's go ahead and put some flux. Alright, so the reason why we use flux is, well, flux attracts solder. So we're going to put flux and then mix the current leaded solder that's on this board with low melt solder. And we do that so that we are able to easily remove this port and reduce the heat temperature off the port itself to lessen. So low melt solder will be able to remove the the HDMI port with less heat. I'm letting my hot iron heat up real quick. I've got the low melt solder right over here. Nope. Well, I forgot one of the most important key things. That is my cheap fume extractor. I need to make an investment on a better one, but for now I'm using that. So normally what I do whenever I'm adding the low melt solder, I am what I'm seeking for is to allow the low melt solder to fuse with the current unleaded solder that's on this board. So what I do is I let my hot iron sit on the pins themselves for a little bit so that it fuses, because if you just touch it up a bit, sometimes it doesn't fuse with the unleaded solder that's on here. So you have to let it fuse with it, so that the temperature itself becomes less than unleaded solder. Unleaded solder takes, I would say, 2 times to 3 times the heat of low melt solder. And then I do the legs. So that's done. Let's go ahead and turn it around. Alright, before we put low melt solder, let's put some flux on the actual pins themselves. Not the pins, but the legs themselves. Alright, sorry about that, everyone. I had a customer just sent me a text message that they're outside waiting on me. Basically also dropping off another console for repair. That being said, let's go ahead and continue with this repair so that I can go ahead and get with his repair right afterwards. Alrighty. So we got the low melt solder on the hot iron, and we're fusing this low melt solder with the unleaded solder that's currently on the board. Alrighty, I had to go ahead and flip the board around the other way because it makes it easier. I'm right-handed, so it makes it easier for me to grab and hold the HDMI port itself. And I'm going to put some weight on the back so that whenever I'm pulling on this, the back of the board does not move forward, if that makes any sense. Let's go ahead and start heating this board up. Got my tweezers here, which I'm going to press and hold here. And let me go ahead while we're doing this. Let's disable this camera view so that it does not block. Removing this port. There we go. Board is completely out. As you can see, it did not take as much heat to take it out, and now I just need to clean the holes with, of course, adding some more flux Reason why I add flux is because I'm going to use my wick, and in order for the solder to come out, it requires some flux as well. Alright, so now I've got my wick here and my hot iron. And I'm just going to press on this for this low melt solder that I put on here to come out with it, hopefully. It looks like there's still some unleaded solder there. Alrighty. We've cleaned the bottom portion. Let me go ahead and remove the flux off of this. Now the liquid I'm using here to clean this out, to clean the flux with, it is 99.9% IPA, which IPA stands for isopropyl alcohol. In case you do not know, I will have links below in my video of most of all the equipment I use to do this sort of repair. And I say most because some I have purchased on the website called AliExpress. I don't have links for those, unfortunately, because sometimes the same sellers where I used to buy from are no longer selling anymore, and they just don't have those exact items anymore. So, that being said, whatever items I can find, which I do have now an affiliation with Amazon, and it does give me a kickback if you make any purchase using my Amazon link. If you want to help out the channel, of course, feel free to go to the link and make any of the purchases you like of any of the hardware and or not consumables, but liquids I use, like for example flux, low melt solder, and that sort of stuff. Alright, let's go ahead and flip the board. Alrighty, board is flipped. As you can see now, we still need to clean the pads themselves, the actual pins, and of course the hose as well. That being said, I know there is already flux in there, but we're just going to add just a tad bit more. And I think we're going to have to add the low melt on here on this side to make it come out. I'm sorry, I did not realize that it was actually blurry for you guys. So all I've done so far is add flux to the pins, and I'm about to add a little bit more low melt so that it makes it easier for me to clean the holes. Alrighty. So we got the pads cleaned. We got the hose cleaned. Let's go ahead and remove the flux, burnt flux that's on here. Awesome. So this board is now prepped in order for us to put the new HDMI port in there. You know what? Go ahead and grab it. Alright, we've got the new HDMI port right here, still in its case. Let's go ahead and remove it out. Alrighty, so we've got the board prepped. Let me go ahead and heat it up since we got some flux inside the hose. I'm going to heat it up just a tad bit. Okay, or just heat up a little bit. Just lay this port down. Alright, so the port's there. I did not put any solder on the actual pins themselves ahead of time. I am going to add some flux to this. And let me grab some regular leaded solder. And I'm going to put some regular leaded solder on my iron tip. It's already on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down on the HDMI port because I definitely want it to sit down properly. Make sure I don't burn myself, of course. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to touch the pins themselves, just barely, so that they fuse with the pins themselves, with the leaded solder. And then I'll come back, and right now it's just so that they hold. We may have some temporary bridges, which is fine. Right now I'm just doing that so that the HDMI port actually stays in place. And now I'm going to turn it around and solder the pins themselves. We're going to put some flux on the legs. We're going to grab our leaded solder, or hot iron, and get some leaded solder inside. Alright, let's go ahead and make sure the pins are correct, which they're not right now at the moment. Let's go ahead and get these pins corrected. Currently, I do not have any solder on my hot iron. I'm going to use the existing solder that's on there for now. Alright, I had to tilt it down a little bit. Makes it easier for me to see and work with. Alright, let's go ahead and do the nudge test. To do the nudge test, I'm just grabbing my plain old tweezers and pushing, not too hard, but not too soft on the pins to make sure to see if they move. Awesome, they're all good. And now lastly, what we're going to do is actually test, continuity test, basically is to check and make sure that we don't have any bridges in this HDMI port. So what I'm going to do is grab my multimeter, Sorry, I moved the board. Grab my multimeter, put it in diode mode. I am moving stuff out of the way. Multimeter, diode mode. When it's in diode mode, you basically hear the sound. And if it's bridge, we'll be able to hear that sound as well. So I'm going to start from the far left and work my way to the right. Lastly, we're going to test, it's going to be the filters. So these filters here, they tend to go bad sometimes as well. Even though we know the issue was probably most likely the HDMI port. We are going to test these now. We are going to hear the sound if this filter is good. That means there is continuity going through it. And we're supposed to hear it only going across, but not sideways. So we're going to test those out. And then check across to make sure that they're not touching. That's good. Awesome, these filters are good. And then the last two components I need to validate. They are on the back near the HDMI port. The fuse itself is actually right next to the HDMI port. So the HDMI port is right over here. It's right there. And the fuse is this one here. This one also tends to cause a no display issue as well. So we're going to test that. We do need to hear continuity going through it, which we do. If there is no continuity, that means it's actually bad. And then lastly would be this fuse here. It would be shorted, not fused, but this is diode. It would be shorted if there's nothing going through it, which is not shorted at all, which is good. So everything else tested correctly. And let's go ahead and put the board back on the console and test. Alrighty, let's go ahead and plug it in and see if this will work. HDMI. And let's go ahead and switch over the screen. And the scene to show test bench. And let's see if it'll show screen. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Blue lights on. Oh, I'm seeing the PlayStation logo. Awesome. It's actually gone. This actually worked. Awesome. So this console, based on the symptoms that the console was brought in for, it has been 100% fixed. I do need to test, of course, to make sure that all the other functionalities actually work. But other than that, this console has been repaired. Alrighty. For those of you that actually stand in tune, Thank you very much for staying tuned and watching my video. Do me a favor, go ahead and hit the like button on this video if you like the type of content that you're actually seeing here. I know that this type of video, based on board, is repetitive. That's all I can do right now is actually do videos on the type of consoles and issues that I actually receive, which is why I'm not posting as much to my channel, because a lot of the issues I receive are very similar from both ends on the Xbox and the PlayStation, and from either it being the retimer chip on the Xbox or the HDMI port on the PS4 or the video encoder chip on the PS4s as well. So I know this type of video is actually repetitive, but some of the customers request, that a video is recorded and uploaded to YouTube because they want to see their console being repaired as well, and what we did to repair their console. So this is one of the reasons why I make this video and actually upload them as well to my YouTube channel. Other than that, somewhere on the screen or actually on the description below, you'll see the information. If you want your console to be repaired, I am in the US only. Go ahead and feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email down in the description below. Send me an email, along with my website will be down below as well, where you would have access to my ticketing system, where you would create a ticket, print that out, attach it with your console. That way I know who that console belongs to. Send it over to me, and I will get the console repaired for you as well. With regards to cost and going rates, shoot me an email, and I will definitely share that information with you. Other than that, thank you very much for actually watching this video. Once again, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed, and yeah, I will be seeing you on my next video. Thanks, guys. Peace. Y'all have a good day, good night, good morning, wherever you're at. Later, guys.